Working with fractions. So a fraction is used to show part of a whole, right? So when you have a fraction, it represents one big picture, right? So one whole of something, but broken down into equal pieces, right? I like to refer to the pizza, right? When I'm talking about fractions. So we can talk about the pizza and how the pizza is usually, or they try to cut it into equal parts, right? So we have here a pizza, let's say, pizza is broken down into how many parts? How many parts is this pizza broken down? 3 parts, right? So in terms of a fraction, right? Okay, it's broken down into 3 parts. There we go, right? So that 3 parts represents our denominator. Okay. So however many we might shade in, okay, refers to how many of this whole are we referring to? So how many of this whole are we referring to? There are 3 parts into this whole. How many am I referring to? 1/3. So our denominator represents how many equal parts our whole is broken up into. The numerator refers to how many of that whole, or that of each part, are we referring to. Okay. So now if I decide, okay, I'm going to eat that much of the pizza and I'm going to eat one more piece, right? Now my fraction turns into
2/3.
2/3, right? So I'm referring to 2 parts of a possible 3. Okay? So think of it in terms of a mark, right? So the whole, right, your whole test, or a quiz, let's say a quiz because we're looking at a small number, like 3, something that's out of 3. So 3 questions, 3 marks, and you get 2 out of 3. So what is the whole possibility? The possibility, you have the possibility of getting all 3 marks, or 2 of them, or 1, or maybe even none of them. Okay? But in terms of fraction, we're looking at the denominator representing how many equal parts in total do we have. What are we referring it to? Okay. Now, if I decide to eat the entire pizza, 3/3, right? Now, when we have something like that, we refer to it as 1 whole, right? So 3/3 refers to all parts of our whole, right? Remember, all parts of our whole. Whole represented by 1. Okay. So these are some of the possibilities. When you do have the top number and bottom number, denominator and numerator exactly the same, always simplify it to 1. It's representing 1 whole. So, here we have another fraction, 3/4. Right? So 3 represents, our 3 is referred to as what? What is the name of it? Numerator, right? So the 3 is the numerator. 4 represents represents what? The denominator. So, our whole is broken up into how many pieces? How many pieces is our whole referred to? 4 pieces, right? Now, I can either show it to you in terms of a pizza and go, okay, we break it down into 4 pieces, or I can use a bar and break this bar into 4 equal pieces. Remember, the pieces must be equal to one another. Okay, so whenever you're trying to show it in terms of a diagram, remember all the parts should be equal in size. Okay, so bear with me with these sketches. So of the 4, right, our whole is broken up into 4s. So of this 4, how many pieces of this 4 am I referring to? I mean, 3 of them. So I'm going to color in 1, 2, 3 out of the 4. Same thing goes with this bottom. 1, 2, 3 out of the 4. But now, let's say with this bottom one, I decide to cut it even further. How many pieces are there in my whole? How many pieces are there? 8. And how many are we referring to in the 8? 6. So we have 6/8. 6/8. Anyone know what kind of a fraction that is with respect to 3/4?
You just make it a little bit smaller in a way, just because you just make one line the pieces just get smaller but not the numbers.
Exactly. So now, what can I do to the top and bottom to kind of show me, get me back to the same, what I got? Divided by 2, right? So 6 divided by 2, 8 divided by 2. So we get 3 over 4. So it represents the same exact fraction, but 3 over 4 is what we call lowest terms. Always convert your fractions into lowest terms. Now, we have 3 over 4, we have 6 over 8. They represent the same exact fraction. Right? So whenever they represent the same exact fraction, what do we call them? What kind of fractions? What kind of fractions do they refer to? Equivalent fractions.